morning, boys and girls. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying healthy. We're still trying to get videos uploaded for you so that you can do some lessons at home, and we're going to try to keep this year going as much as we possibly can. We sure do miss you. We cannot wait for you to all to be back at school so that we can finish out our school year the way that we want to, okay, all together. We are going to start a new lesson today. We're starting our unit on weather. I think it's going to be a fun lesson, or a fun unit. I hope it will anyway. And we're going to start off with a book, listening to a book. And the book we're going to listen to today is called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which I know that you've all heard before, I'm sure, and listened to before. So sit back and just enjoy the story, and then we will continue with our unit.
Fables. Subscribe for more books read aloud. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, written by Judy Barrett. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For a lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day there was only broccoli all overcooked. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses have been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. Children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the side except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end.
All right, good. Okay, now. So that's one of the fun books that we use a lot of times when we're talking about weather, and I think that hang on.
Welcome to Brightly Storytime. I'm Miss Linda.
I think that it's a fun story to start your weather unit with. Anyway, let's go on and start talking about our weather, the weather that we have here, the weather that we are used to here in our state. Okay. Now, I want you to think for just a minute, and we are going to think about some things that we already know about weather, words that we already know about weather, words that we relate to weather. Okay. So let's look right here. We know that weather can be stormy, and when we say stormy, we mean like tornadoes and hurricanes and thunderstorms, okay? That's mainly what we have in our area. All right, weather can also be snowy. We can have snow, okay? And one of the storms that we think about with snow is a blizzard. Now, we don't have blizzards here, which I think I'm kind of glad of, because I like snow, but I don't like it being around a whole long time. I like to get out and play in it, and then I want it to go away, okay? Then we have sunny days, which are my favorite. Those are my favorite days, okay? And rainy days, which sometimes are fun if you just want to sit back and relax and watch a movie or read a book, okay? So these are the kinds of weather that we have here in our area. And I'm going to put these empty Post-its right here because I would like to try to maybe add some things to our words that we already know about weather, maybe at the end of our unit, okay? So this is what we're doing. Let's talk about the weather. So we are going to be doing this. Comparing weather patterns over time and relate the observable patterns to time of day or the time of the year, and also distinguishing how the weather tools are used, okay? Why and how they are used. All right, now we've got a read aloud, okay? In our book Weather, it's going to talk about the patterns that we have in our weather and what causes them. Have you ever noticed a pattern with weather? Think about the seasons of the year. Winter, spring, summer, fall, and then back to winter. There are a lot of patterns in weather if you just stop and pay attention. These patterns are due to the way Earth travels around the sun. Did you know that the Earth revolves around the sun? The Earth goes all the way around the sun in 365 days. That is 1 year. This trip around the sun is the reason that we have 4 seasons. The Earth revolves around the sun while it rotates on its axis. One rotation takes 24 hours, which is 1 day. Since the Earth's axis is tilted, one side of the Earth is leaning towards the sun while it goes around the Earth. This side of the Earth gets a lot more sunlight, which means it is summer. The other side of the Earth is getting less sunlight, which means it's winter. As the Earth continues on its path around the sun, the hemisphere that is close to the sun starts to get farther away. As it moves farther away, it becomes fall. Once it is tilted completely away, it is winter. This cycle happens each and every year. This is how we experience seasons on Earth. Patterns in weather are much easier to notice if you keep a log. You can just use a notebook to record what the weather is like each day. See what you can figure out about the weather in your area. I think you will find many different patterns if you just look. And here lately in North Carolina, we've had lots of different weather patterns. Like yesterday, or day before yesterday, it was, a little bit cool outside and raining one second and not the next. And then yesterday, it just rained all day and got warmer. And then today, we got up and the sun was beautiful outside. It's trying to come back out now. And it was a pretty good temperature. So this time of the year in North Carolina, in our area, we get all kinds of weather. All kinds of weather. All right, now, if you look right here, these are your vocabulary words, okay? Now, when you get your packet, you will have these 2 papers. It's a flip-flap, basically. And you will be able to, what you're going to do is you're going to put them together, actually just fold it together, and then you got your vocabulary here, and then here is the definition of each word. And so then you're going to write a sentence for each one of these words right here in this spot. So our vocabulary words are, let's see if I can do it. Oh, there we go. Okay, we have weather is the first word, and weather means the temperature and outside conditions at a certain time. The next word is axis, and the axis is an imaginary line that indicates how something rotates. Now let's talk about that for just a minute. When we hear the word axis, it is an imaginary line. If you think about the Earth, okay, here's the globe. The pole that is starting here at the top of the globe and ends down here at the bottom of the globe. So basically, it's representing an imaginary line that goes all the way through the Earth from the North Pole to the South Pole. That is the axis, and that is what the world rotates on, okay? Is that axis. All right, the next word is rotate, which is mean to spin or move in a circle, all right? Okay, and a lot of times we rotate when we have our reading groups, we are rotating around the room. We're going around in a circle. And then revolve is to move around something. And then hemisphere is half of a sphere. So again, if you look at the globe is considered a sphere. It is like a big ball, okay? And if you have half of this globe or half of a ball, it would be a hemisphere or half of the sphere. All right, so that's your vocabulary words. Now remember, when you get your packets home, this will already be together, and all you have to do is write a sentence for each one of your words. What is your favorite type of weather? Okay, I sent a little survey home for you to work with, and I'm going to just go ahead and use the results that I already have for that. So far we had, let's see here. So far we had 4 people say that they like sunny weather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark those 4 people right there. And so sunny weather, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that like the sunny weather. Rainy weather, I had 1 person. Stormy weather, nobody. Nobody really likes storms. Didn't have anybody who liked cloudy weather either. But snowy weather, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? 6 people like snowy weather, and I think lots of us like snowy weather because it's just fun, isn't it? It's fun to get outside and play in it. But like I said, I'm ready for it to go away when it's time to go away. Alright, so good job. That is our graph on your favorite type of weather and what we voted on as a class. Now, today for your assignment, you are going to illustrate and write about your favorite kind of weather, okay? So in your packet as well, you have this sheet, and it says illustrate and write about your favorite weather. So you're going to draw a big, beautiful picture up here of a scene of a day with a beautiful weather in it that you love, your favorite weather. And then I want you to write a few sentences, making sure they're complete sentences, capital letters, punctuation, any proper nouns capitalized, anything you need, and write about that your favorite weather that you may have, okay? All right, guys, that's it for today on lesson 1. Come back tomorrow and we will start lesson 2. Thanks.